Hey there everybody, I wanted to do a different kind of video this time. Normally my videos are music videos, or videos about music, or videos of travel, but this time I wanted to do a design and art video and show you how I made the artwork for Time to Live. You may or may not know this about me, but for as long as I can remember, I've been doing pretty much all of my own art and graphic design work. Now that's going to change moving forward as I continue to have the opportunity to work with some other great artists, but I thought this would be a cool behind the scenes. So the Time to Live artwork did not start out with the goal of it being the image for the single. It was just supposed to be a t-shirt design, and it's funny how we fall into these things. Originally, I thought that the single design was going to be some picture of me with some cool typography. Little known fact, in music, and not even just specifically in music, in a lot of designs people tend to lean toward using faces because people psychologically respond to that and identify with that. So that's what I thought I was going to do. It's not what ended up happening, and I'm really pretty glad I landed on this. Another thing about this design, though, is it's different for me. Normally, I try to do things that are kind of epic or look pretty modern, but that didn't really fit entirely the tone of this song, so I wanted to do something that was fun and accessible and was kind of a throwback to 70s, 80s, 90s sci-fi stuff. Think Star Trek, Star Wars, something you might see on like a kid's sci-fi lunchbox. Definitely different for me with this heavyweight font, with the outline on the letters, with this sort of replicated 3D effect. Here's one of the original designs I was working with, and there were several. The text is slanted. Again, I was leaning really hard into that throwback thing. And one of the things that I've been experimenting with a lot lately, and I really like, is overlaying different textures or pictures or backgrounds onto text. And you can see I did that here even with my Look Forward design. I like this piece of art quite a lot. You can get this on the Look Forward t-shirts in my online store, by the way. Go grab one of those. But there's a few really intentional moves here. You know, the text is slanted forward, thinking about forward motion. I reversed the K and then doubled up part of its anatomy here so that it kind of looks like a play button. But the thing I want to really draw your attention to is that I overlaid this rustic texture over the text, and it just makes it more interesting. So I thought, okay, Time to Live as a song, it starts with some fun and kind of ethereal sounding synthesizers, makes me think of space. Let's go with the space theme here. So I did that. I overlaid this sort of movie screen crop onto the text, and I really wanted to play with this layer style exclusion. What I thought was really cool about this is if you look at the outline of the letters, they basically get inverted and made transparent once they hit this background, and I thought that just made for a really cool effect, and I wanted to play that up. Now, as I was showing these designs to my band, they were saying, you might want to dial it back on the slanted text. We think straight up and down works a little bit better. And I also was showing them where instead of having this crop thing happening, I just masked an image of space onto the text, and with a little bit of help and objectivity, this is sort of what we landed on. So here's one of the mock-ups I sent them of it on a t-shirt, and one of the other reasons that I didn't use this design was that it tended to look a little bit better on a screen than it did on a shirt. Now that's not to say I don't like this on a shirt. I would wear this shirt. But it just ended up not being the final contender. So let's unpack some of the elements that went into the final design. So basically a lot of this stuff got preserved. The same font is there, the outline of the text is there, the replicated 3D effect is there, and again, I thought that all leaned into the throwback element and the funness of this. But I want to talk a little bit about this background here and peel it back by layers. So I started with just a flat red background. One of the things that I did here was I added a very slight vignette around the edge. You can see me turning that on and off. Now vignettes get used in film, they get used in artwork, and it can be you have to be intentional about using a vignette because they're really easy to overstate. And I see this sometimes with indie filmmakers. They'll use these really heavy vignettes, I think because they've just seen tutorials that tell them to do it. But I think if you overstate it, it looks overstated. Unless you're using it for something like the view from a creature in a sci-fi film or a flashback, or if you're going for a very noir look. I think you have to be careful about your use of vignettes, but in this case I kept it pretty subtle just because I wanted to draw your attention into the center of the frame where the words were going to be. Next we have kind of this like speckled thing that's happening here, and I'm going to geek out with you and let you in on the secret here. It's another picture of space. When I take this to a normal blending mode, you just see the Final Frontier there. But I used a blending mode called Subtract, which kind of makes this look like spattered black spray paint almost, just giving a little bit of texture to the background. And then we have our text here, and I want to show you a little bit of what went into this. So I have this space image masked onto the text itself, but if we just take a look at the space image, it's actually just one picture flipped, replicated and flipped, and you can see it's got kind of this mirror dividing line in the center, which is a little bit psychedelic, but you can't really see it once it's masked onto the text. And then one other really subtle thing here, something else that was a point of decision for me was whether or not I was going to leave the hole in this O. But I thought, one, it saved me work not having it there, so I think that's actually the main reason I left it out. But also, functionally, if you had this hole here, and you would also had it in the replicated background, it would have been a little bit crowded there, so I think filling it in looks just fine. The last thing here, and this is another really subtle element, is this drop shadow. Now if I hadn't told you it was there, you may not have even noticed that it was happening. But if I turn it off and on, you can see that. For those of you who don't know what a drop shadow is, it's just a shadow underneath a layer that makes it look like a light is shining on it. I wanted to make sure that I kept this pretty subtle too, because I know drop shadows aren't exactly in design vogue right now. And again, they're easy to overdo, or they're very genre specific if you want them. But in this case, I was just trying to keep adding little subtle things that gave this picture some pop and some dynamic. The vignette, or like the drop shadow. So that's pretty much how I got from the beginning to the end of the artwork for Time to Live. Remember to check out Time to Live when it comes out on May the 10th. It was mixed by Doug Weir, mastered by the Foxborough. Pre-save that baby on Spotify. I can give you a link on how to do that. I may even put it in the description of this video. And if you're watching this video after the song has come out, what are you doing? Go check out the lyric video. Go buy it on iTunes or CD Baby or Amazon. Definitely does help when you support by buying, or you can certainly stream it from one of your favorite streaming platforms. Love you guys, and until next time, onward and upward.